Afternoon. Today, I would like to present my research study entitled The Influence of Social Media Exposure, Self-Esteem and Body Image on the Acceptance of Cosmetic Surgery Among Generation C Individuals in Bangkok, Thailand. Currently, physical appearance has become increasingly important for self-confidence, social interaction, and how individuals perceive themselves, particularly in an urban society such as Bangkok. At the same time, social media platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook continuously force individuals to idealize standards of beauty and make it easier for them to compare themselves with others. Exposure to this type of content may not directly lead to the decision to undergo cosmetic surgery. However, it may influence how individuals perceive their own appearance and potentially lead to body dissatisfaction. In addition to social media, self-esteem and body image are also important internal factors relate to how individuals evaluate themselves and their physical appearance. Therefore, dissatisfaction may serve as an important mechanism linking these factors to the acceptance of cosmetic surgery, particularly among Generation C who have grown up in a digital environment. The key issue is that although cosmetic surgery has become increasingly accepted among younger generations, the psychological mechanisms underlying this acceptance remain unclear. Previous studies have examined the relationships among social media, self-esteem, body image, body dissatisfaction, and cosmetic surgery acceptance. However, most studies have examined these factors separately or have focused primarily on direct relationships. There is still limited research that integrates these factors into a single model, particularly research examining whether body dissatisfaction serves as a mediating variable between these factors and the acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Furthermore, evidence focusing specifically on Generation C in Bangkok remains limited. Therefore, this study was conducted to address this research gap. Based on these research problems and gaps, the objectives of this study were established. There were three main objectives. First, to examine the relationships between social media exposure, self-esteem, body image, and body dissatisfaction. Second, to examine the relationship between body dissatisfaction and acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Third, to assess the indirect effects of social media exposure, self-esteem, and body image on acceptance of cosmetic surgery through body dissatisfaction. In summary, this study aimed to understand whether body dissatisfaction serves as an important mechanism linking social media exposure and psychological factors to the acceptance of cosmetic surgery among Generation C individuals in Bangkok, Thailand. Based on these research objectives, the study addressed three main research questions. First, What are the relationships between social media exposure, self-esteem, body image, and body dissatisfaction among Generation C individuals in Bangkok, Thailand? This research question corresponds to hypothesis 1, 2, 3. Second, what is the relationship between body dissatisfaction and acceptance of cosmetic surgery among Generation C individuals in Bangkok, Thailand? This question corresponds to hypothesis 4. Third, does body dissatisfaction mediate the relationships between social media exposure, self-esteem, body image, and the acceptance of cosmetic surgery among Generation C individuals in Bangkok, Thailand? This question corresponds to hypothesis 5A to 5B. These research questions were used to guide the development of the conceptual framework and the subsequent hypothesis testing using PRS scheme. Now I would like to move on to chapter 2, the literature review. For the theoretical foundations of this study, three main theories were used to explain and support the conceptual framework. The first theory is social comparison theory by Festinger. This theory explains that individuals tend to evaluate themselves by comparing themselves with others, particularly in terms of physical appearance. In the current digital environment, social media provides continuous opportunities for appearance comparisons with other people. Therefore, this theory supports hypothesis 1. The second theory is self-discrepancy theory by Thesis. This theory explains that when individuals perceive a discrepancy between their actual appearance and their ideal appearance, which may lead to dissatisfaction and negative feelings. This theory helps explain the relationship between self-esteem and body image and body dissatisfaction, as well as the relationship between body dissatisfaction and acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Therefore, it supports hypothesis 2, 3, and 4. The third theory is tripartite influence model developed by Thompson and colleagues. This model explains that influence from the media, peers, and family can affect body image through the processes of internalization and appearance comparison. In this study, social media is emphasized as an important media influence among Generation C. Therefore, this model supports hypothesis 1 and mediation hypothesis H5A to H5B. Overall, these three theories complement one another. Social comparison theory explains that process of appearance comparison. Self-discrepancy theory explains the gap between actual self and the ideal self, and the tripartite influence model explains the influence of social and media factors. Together, these theories provide a theoretical foundation for examining the relationship among social media exposure, self-esteem, body image, body dissatisfaction, and acceptance of cosmetic surgery among Generation C in Bangkok, Thailand. Next, I would like to explain the key concepts and construct definitions of this study. The research consists of five main variables. The first variable is social media exposure, which refers to the level of exposure to and engagement with social media content. In this study, particular attention is given to appearance, relate, content, and beauty standards. The second variable is self-esteem, which refers to an individual's overall evaluation of their self-worth and self-acceptance. The third variable is body image, which refers to an individual's perceptions, thoughts, and feelings about their physical appearance. The fourth variable is body dissatisfaction, which refers to negative feelings and evaluations of one's physical appearance that may occur when individuals perceive a discrepancy between their actual appearance and their ideal appearance. The final variable is acceptance of cosmetic surgery, which refers to the extent to which individuals have favorable attitudes towards or are willing to accept cosmetic surgery to modify their physical appearance. In the research model, social media exposure, self-esteem, and body image are the independent variables. Body dissatisfaction is the mediating variable, while acceptance of cosmetic surgery is dependent variable. Therefore, this study focuses on examining how the social and psychological factors are related to the acceptance of cosmetic surgery through body dissatisfaction. Next, I would like to explain the conceptual framework of this study. The conceptual framework was developed by integrating relevant theoretical concepts and previous empirical studies, and it consists of five key variables. Social media exposure is conceptualized as an external factor that may influence individuals' perceptions of their appearance through exposure to idealized appearance-related content on social media. Self-esteem and body image are considered internal psychological factors reflecting individuals' evaluations of their self-worth and their perceptions of their own physical appearance. Body dissatisfaction is positioned as the mediating variable. It explains the psychological mechanism through which these external and internal factors may contribute to dissatisfaction with one's body. Finally, acceptance of cosmetic surgery is the dependent variable reflecting individuals' attitudes towards and willingness to accept or consider cosmetic surgery. Therefore, this conceptual framework proposes that social media exposure, self-esteem, and body image are related to body dissatisfaction, and the body dissatisfaction serves as an important mechanism linking these variables to acceptance of cosmetic surgery. The framework is supported by social comparison theory, self-discrepancy theory, and the tripartite influence model. It also addresses the research gap by integrating variables that have often been examined separately into a single model, particularly in the context of Generation C in Bangkok, Thailand. Based on the theoretical framework and the relevant literature, seven hypotheses were developed for this study. They are divided into two parts: four direct relationships and three indirect relationships, examining the mediating role of body dissatisfaction. For the direct relationships, hypothesis 1 proposes that social media exposure has a positive relationship with body dissatisfaction. Hypothesis 2 proposes that self-esteem has a negative relationship with body dissatisfaction. Hypothesis 3 proposed that body image has a negative relationship with body dissatisfaction, and hypothesis 4 proposed that body dissatisfaction has a positive relationship with acceptance of cosmetic surgery. For the indirect relationships, H5A, H5B, and H5C proposed that body dissatisfaction mediates the relationships between social media exposure, self-esteem, and body image, respectively, and acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Specifically, H5A examines the indirect pathway from social media exposure to body dissatisfaction to acceptance of cosmetic surgery. H5B examines the direct pathway from self-esteem to body dissatisfaction to acceptance of cosmetic surgery. And H5C examines that the indirect pathway from body image to body dissatisfaction to acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Overall, this study examines both the direct relationships among the key variables and the law of body dissatisfaction as a psychological mechanism linking these variables to acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Now I would like to move on to chapter 3, which presents the methodology of this study. For this study, a quantitative research approach was employed using a structured questionnaire to collect the data. A cross-sectional research design was used, meaning that the data were collected from respondents at a single point in time. The target population consists of Generation C individuals aged between 18 and 76 years who lived in Bangkok and had experience using social media. The unit of analysis was each individual respondent. For the sampling procedure, non-probability sampling was employed using both convenience sampling and purposive sampling. Screening questions were used to ensure that the respondents met the inclusion criteria of the study. Data were collected offline in the Siam Square area, Pathumwan District, Bangkok in May 2026. This area was selected because it includes universities, educational institutions, shopping centers, and is a major gathering area for Generation C. Regarding the sample size, a total of 300 questionnaires were distributed. After data screening, 280 questionnaires were found to be complete and eligible for analysis, while 20 questionnaires were excluded because they contained incomplete information or did not meet the screening criteria. This results in a usable response rate of 93.3%. For data analysis, um, PLSC was conducted using Smart PLS4. The analysis includes the assessment of both the measurement model and the structural model as well as the testing of direct relationships and mediation effects based on the proposed conceptual framework. For the research instrument, this study used a self-administered structured questionnaire. The questionnaire was divided into six sections. Section A collects demographic information while Section B to F measure the five main constructs of this study: social media exposure, self-esteem, body image, body dissatisfaction, and acceptance of cosmetic surgery. All constructs were measured using a 5-point Richter scale, ranking from 1 strongly disagree to 5 strongly agree. For the measurement source, the study adapted established instruments from previous research. Social media exposure was adapted from children porn, self-esteem from the Rosenberg self-esteem scale, body image from the body appreciation scale 2 or BASC 2, body dissatisfaction from the body shape questionnaire or BSQ, and acceptance of cosmetic surgery from the acceptance of cosmetic surgery scale or ACSS. After adapting the instruments, the researchers selected items that were relevant to the research objective and the context of the study. The final questionnaire consists of 6 items for social media exposure, 10 items for self-esteem, 8 items for body image, 7 items for body dissatisfaction, and 6 items for acceptance of cosmetic surgery, giving a total of 37 measurement items. During the adaptation process, the wording of the item was adjusted to make them appropriate for Generation C and the current social media context. Negatively worded items were also revised into positive wording so that the direction of scoring was consistent and reverse coding was not required. Before data collection, the questionnaire was reviewed by the research advisors to assess the clarity of the language and the appropriateness of the items. The questionnaire was then revised according to the advisor's recommendations. The original items, adapt items, and the reasons for modifying or removing items are presented in Appendix D. For data quality and data analysis, the researchers followed several systematic steps. First, the measurement model was assessed for reliability and validity using convex alpha, composite reliability, ABE, outer loadings, and HTMT. Data were collected using paper-based questionnaires. Regarding research ethics, participants provide informed consent. Participation was voluntary and no personally identifiable information was collected. All information was kept confidential and used only for academic purposes. The researcher then conduct data screening, including checks for incomplete response, missing data, skewness, and kurtosis. Harman single-factor test was also conducted to assess common method bias. For data analysis, PR scheme using Smart TLS4 was employed. Descriptive statistics were first used to describe the sample, followed by assessment of the measurement model and structural model. The structural model was evaluated using part coefficients R-squared, effect size, and predictive relevance. Finally, bootstrapping was used to test the hypothesis and the mediation effect of body dissatisfaction. Now I will move on to chapter 4, which presents the results of the study. Moving on to the demographic profile, 280 varied responses were included in the analysis, representing a 93.3% usable response rate. As shown in the table, the sample was predominantly female aged 21 to 23 and holding a bachelor's degree. Regarding social media use, 3 to 4 hours per day was the most common usage level, with TikTok being the most frequently used platform. Importantly, more than half of the respondents had considered cosmetic surgery, although most had never undergone such procedure. Overall, the sample show high social media engagement and considerable interest in cosmetic surgery. Move to the descriptive statistics. The study used 280 varied responses after data screening. As shown in the table, social media exposure and body image were at high levels, while self-esteem was at a moderate level. Interestingly, body dissatisfaction had the highest mean among the variables, indicating a high level of dissatisfaction with physical appearance. Acceptance of cosmetic surgery was also at high level. Overall, the findings suggest that although respondents report a relatively positive body image, they also experience high body dissatisfaction and high acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Regarding data screen, 300 questionnaires were collected and 20 incomplete responses were excluded, resulting in 280 usable responses. The final dataset had no missing data or excessive straight lining response, and the skewness and kurtosis value were within the acceptable range. Therefore, the final dataset was considered suitable for further self-esteem analysis. Next, I will present the common method bias and measurement model results. For common method bias, among single-factor tests show that the first factor explains 75.02% of the variance, which was below the 50% threshold. Therefore, no serious common method bias was identified. For the measurement model, all indicators met the recommended criteria for autoloading, reliability, convergent validity, discriminant validity, and multicollinearity. Specifically, convex alpha composite reliability and AVE met the recommended thresholds, while the HTMG and VIF results also confirmed discriminant validity and the absence of serious multicollinearity. Overall, the measurement model met all required reliability and validity criteria and was suitable for structural model assessment and hypothesis testing. Next, I would like to move on to chapter 5, discussion of key findings for H1. Social media exposure positively affects body dissatisfaction, suggesting that exposure to idealized beauty standards may increase upward social comparison. For H2, self-esteem negatively affects body dissatisfaction, suggesting that higher self-esteem may protect against negative appearance evaluations. For H3, the hypothesis was not support body image had a positive rather than negative relationship with body dissatisfaction. The data encoding were reached, but the result remained unchanged, so further research is needed. For H4, body dissatisfaction positively affects acceptance of cosmetic surgery, suggesting that greater appearance dissatisfaction increased willingness to consider cosmetic surgery. Discussion of key findings H5A H5B and H5C. For H5A, the hypothesis was support. Social media exposure has a positive indirect effect on acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Through body dissatisfaction, greater social media exposure may increase body dissatisfaction, which subsequently increase acceptance of cosmetic surgery. For H5B, the hypothesis was also support self-esteem had a negative indirect effect on acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Through body dissatisfaction, higher self-esteem was associated with lower body dissatisfaction and lower acceptance of cosmetic surgery. However, H5C was not supported, although the indirect effect of body image was significant. It was positive rather than negative. Due to the positive relationship between body image and body dissatisfaction, the data coding and smart PLS model were reached and the result remained unchanged. Therefore, this finding should be interpreted cautiously. Finally, because the model shows only indirect paths to body dissatisfaction, the finding indicates that significant indirect relationships but cannot be classified as full or partial mediation. Overall, body dissatisfaction emerged as a key psychological mechanism linking social media exposure and self-esteem with acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Theoretical contributions and practical implications. For the theoretical contribution, this study integrates social media exposure, self-esteem, body image, and body dissatisfaction into one framework to explain acceptance of cosmetic surgery. Importantly, body dissatisfaction emerged as a key psychological mechanism linking social media exposure and psychological factors with cosmetic surgery acceptance. The study also provides empirical evidence from Generation C in Bangkok, Thailand, while the unexpected positive relationship between body image and body dissatisfaction suggests that this relationship may be more complex and requires further investigation. For practical implications, the findings highlight the importance of media literacy, self-esteem, and body satisfaction among young people. Educators and mental health professionals can use these findings to develop programs that promote critical social media use, positive self-evaluation, and healthier body perception. Overall, this study contributes to both theoretical understanding and practical approaches to addressing cosmetic surgery acceptance among Generation C. Limitations and recommendations for future research. These are four main limitations. First, the cross-sectional design limits causal interpretation. Second, convenience and purposive sampling may limit the generalizability of the findings. The third, the study focused only on Generation C in Bangkok, which may not represent other regions or age groups. Finally, the use of self-report questionnaire may involve response bias. For future research, long, longitudinal studies and broader samples across different regions and generations are recommended. Future studies could also include additional factors such as peer influence, celebrity influence, media literacy, and psychological well-being. Overall, these recommendations can provide broader and stronger evidence for understanding cosmetic social acceptance. Thank you very much for your kind attention.